Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us today. This is John Tuohy from the band Mile Marker Zero. Welcome to Hour Zero Podcast, Episode 8. And I'm going to change over here to see everybody's face. What's going on, everybody? Nice to see you. We have with us today Mark Focarle, my keyboard player in Mile Marker Zero, and very, very special guest, Frank Sacramone from the band Earthside. Thanks for coming, Frank.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to be here. I don't actually get to talk a lot to other people on like this format, so I think this is a good segue into maybe getting into more of that and doing some more in the future. So,
awesome. Well, we're happy to have you.
Yeah, sure.
For those of you in the chat who are watching now that don't know, we've known Frank and the guys in Earthside for over a decade, a really long time. Back in Mark, you wanna show what you got there from the old days?
Oh boy,
Mark, you're still muted. Unmute yourself, dude.
Oh my!
Let's try.
What an amateur! I pulled this out of my closet.
Oh wow, that's OG.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, then you
missed out.
You're not really
a diehard fan.
That's right. Yeah, that was back in the small
we
space.
we still have like shrink wrapped like presses of that, so
nice.
Maybe saving it for the right time for a re-release. Who knows?
That's a good idea. Well, I think a good way to start today, we have a lot we want to talk about, and
yeah, for sure.
I think a good way to start is sort of where we first met. So I was in a band before MMZ called Reptilicus. And there was this great venue in Hamden, Connecticut, near where we all grew up. And I was in this band, and it was kind of a crazy Frank Zappa-ish type band, really fun, fronted by my great friend Mike O'Mara, who I still play with in other capacities. And we ended up playing this show, and these young kids who were still in high school at the time were playing with this same show. You remember this, Frank? Way back in the day. And I remember...
I loved Reptilicus, man. That slapped.
And I remember, I think you guys were on after us, and you guys just kicked so much butt that night. It was like, whoa, who are these kids playing this music? And this was as Bushwhack before you guys evolved into Earthside, right? And that was, I think, the first time I had heard you guys, and I was like, wow, these guys are amazing, and they're so young. And it was cool to have a band from the area, first of all, that to me sort of we had a synergy to at least the things that I was playing and the stuff that I liked. And then as you guys sort of morphed and evolved into Earthside, we would come check out your shows. You guys would come check out our shows. We would play, there'd be a lot of these things. And I'm not sure what your first recollection of meeting us as MMZ was.
I don't, honestly, like Jamie and Ben probably have better memories than I do on that. I think I remember more. I guess I maybe remember more of the Reptilicus show than I did when I first saw you guys. So I don't. Yeah, sometimes I just like I don't know anything. Sometimes I'm just my brain. There's so many instances of meeting people and in different circumstances, like and the number of times we've run into each other at Toads or the
right.
space or one of the venues, like.
Yeah, it's been a bunch of times.
Like
that might just mean that MMZ had a really off night and we weren't good enough to remember, which is fine. We'll own that. We played enough shows to have bad shows, many bad shows, but hopefully less and less as time goes on. But I just want to, maybe we can do a little bit of history of Earthside, talk about where it originated, and then talk about your last album, and we can sort of talk about maybe the industry at large too. That would be kind of fun to get your perspective on, because you have some unique perspectives, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like the story goes, Ben always harps on us about this because it's, he's sick of hearing it, but it's, I like met Jamie when I was like 7 years old. And I think like somehow we just kind of had a natural affinity for music and similar kinds of music, I guess. Jamie maybe more on the rock side, me maybe more on the like electronic hip hop side, and then kind of just there was a synergy there. So I mean, this like knowing, like I've known Ben since like freshman year of high school, so you know we're talking like way back when this stuff started, and Jamie and I would make demos on cassette at first, and this I'll never forget. This is probably what started my downward spiral of becoming an artist, which is both beautiful and can be challenging. Which is bringing into 6th grade a cassette tape of Jamie and I jamming on a song we wrote. And we started writing music pretty early. I would say like when we were like 12, something like that, or 11, like writing, like trying to write original music. For some reason, that was like, you know, I don't know. So that was like the special thing. Like when you learn to create, it's just like, I don't know, it changes your life when you can. So anyway, like I brought it to school and I found this cassette player and I like played it to people and everyone was just like, and then just like walked away. And like, that was basically probably the start of like, you know, my entire life of being like, oh my God, like, you know, I guess this is what being a musician is going to be like, you know.
Well, the mistake you made, it wasn't Green Day on there or Good Charlotte. That's part of the problem, you know, or whatever was the fad at the time, probably.
Yeah, it was original music, and
Yep.
but yeah, I mean, I guess the you know, jumping forward, the evolution of you know, Earthside was like we kind of hit a point where like we you know had been studying music a lot, and we like really just you know, we all kind of dove into it in different ways, but at the end of the day we were like, when we reflected upon what we really loved about music, it was less of this like you know, kind of musical wankery for the sake of it. It was like we're these like very like kind of emotional and philosophically deep people, and we want our music to reflect that, or like for it to be more natural in the way we express ourselves. So I think the Earthside evolution was like, I think just we came to a point where we're like we found a sound, and probably the maybe the first one of the first songs to really change over to that sound was The Closest I've Come, which like we wrote, I don't know, in like, I forget if it was like 2010 or 11. Jamie again probably knows more things than I do. He went to Yale, so you know, there you go. But you know, I think we started kind of like really cementing into the Earthside sound once we like kind of finished writing Closest I've Come, and then kind of things grew from there. I mean, Jamie was writing Mob Mentality during his senior thesis at Yale for composition, and you know, I had been working on some stuff at a professional studio, interning there, and then like using the entire night shift to like really hone in on using, you know, professional studio equipment and getting into that, and then kind of trying to express myself recording through that, which I did my own project called Burning Sideways on that. But anyway, as far as like Earthside evolved, it was like it was 3 friends, you know, from childhood and high school, and then us kind of finally realizing at one point that like, okay, through just, I don't know if it was maybe experimentation, but just, you know, we kept writing, and then eventually we were like, yeah, this is maybe more us, and then we kind of just rode with that. So I think I don't know, I think there was a natural evolution that was like bound to happen, and Bushwhack was necessary, our old band, you know, because it was, we wanted to just push the limits. We were just like, what can we do? What are we capable of doing? How many genres can we mash together? And I think that was a really healthy experiment for us to push ourselves when we were younger, and then figure out like what are the things we really liked looking back on it out of that music, and then maybe building off of that.
Can you remember, like, what do you guys like? Did you guys have a sit down where you were like, "All right, we want to retool this. We want to change the name." Like, what was it, or did you come naturally?
Oh yeah, we had a big sit down. We thought of the name game was like impossible. I mean, we were jotting down like dozens of names. We were looking at Magic the Gathering cards to like come up because they usually have cool titles on them. So like we were trying
Kerr Ridges. That's could have been you.
Yeah, one of them was telepathic swine riders. So I thought that would have been a good.
That's your side project.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean the whole process is the non-musical stuff, you know, and being a band is like the most mind-numbing stuff you can kind of dive into. The what's our, you know, what's the right name, what's the right way to like market yourself, what's the, you know, right imagery, what's all this stuff, right? And it's so you know, I don't know. It's like overwhelming when it's like, I just want to get good at music. That's another discussion. But yeah, I mean, as far as the choosing the name, it was more like, let's make a list of a bazillion names. And Ben came up with that name. We thought it was like, just like a universal name that didn't really mean anything specific. And so that we could just, you know, promote and put our music out without people having preconceived notions. But also I think the idea of like earth in it invokes like a sense of largeness and in scope. So I think that works to its advantage as well, but it also is very neutral of a name.
John, I don't know if you remember this. We one time were for maybe about like an hour and a half, we're considering changing our name too, and we had this this ridiculous stand in a line and like don't look, but one person steps forward, and we could never come up with something different, and then we were like, we're just in too deep, so we just kind of
It's
okay.
hard.
I'm going to say something we've never talked about publicly before, just for fun, because why not? So, yeah, you said it's really hard to, you know, all the other stuff, the logo, the branding, the name, you know, especially if you're musically inclined and you're not in it to be, I want to be the most famous person. Well, yeah, and you just want to be, you want to write compelling music. You feel drawn to it, right? Those other things kind of are so secondary for a long time, you know, and they're hard, like you said. So, one of the names that we were considering, some of us were considering, I won't call out any names, was we were going to call ourselves Taste. Now, needless to say, that didn't win, and we kept MMZ. But yeah, so we hear you on that. But one of the things that I wanted to say, that as you were kind of describing your evolution, it's interesting because when we first, at least I know when I first heard you guys as Earthside versus Bushwhack, it was an obvious evolution to me. Yeah. And it was cool because it was incorporating things that I don't think I'd heard before. It seemed there was more sort of ambient soundscape things in there, along with things got heavier and lower tuned guitars. And also, you know, it's sort of, what's really cool is that you guys sort of, at least on the first record, you know, and we can talk about more about where you're going from here, but it seemed to me that there was sort of this synthesis in a lot of different spheres of music. I mean, there was obviously a progressive edge, a metal edge, and then there's this sort of Porcupine Tree tinge, Steven Wilson soundscape type moments in some of your songs, and then there's some of these other more groove-oriented, Sevendust-y part. Like there was a lot of things sort of thrown into the mix, and to me that was really cool because I just love when bands and artists, especially people that we like and admire their music already, try for something new and are successful at actually synthesizing all those things. It's very hard to do, as you know, and you guys have the same problem as we do, is that we you know, overanalyze everything to death, and we work on a billion different ways of doing something, and we'll try it one way, and we'll try it another way, and then we'll say, no, we need more of this, we need less of this. So, and I know you guys are sort of the same, right?
Yeah, I mean, somehow like we kind of evolved into this like grind, like grinding band where like everything was like held to like a certain scrutiny, and like I don't know why or how that happened, but yeah, I mean we've always we we're conscious of what we love in music and who we appreciate, but like none of us are really fanboys, so it's like very easy for us to kind of just pick what we think is cool from other artists and then put it in the context of how we like to write. And so, you know, I think that's maybe why we've been fairly successful in doing that, is because we're not like obsessing over how we're going to sound like that band or that artist. It's just we're just focused on the music, you know, like it's like, okay, Steven Wilson, great, you exist. It's like, it's cool. Like, I mean, he's a prodigy. He's awesome. But like, I mean, I don't, not much into his newer stuff. I'll say that. But, you know, but like, as far as I care more about what he's writing than him himself. So
the cult of personality doesn't interest you guys.
Yeah. And I think that's the same for everyone in the band. Which I think is interesting, because I know like a lot of bands, when they talk, they're like, oh, I love this band, or I love that, and like, here's our Tool song, and here's our Porcupine Tree song, and whatever. And we're all like, like, okay. So I'm sure that's kind of like one of the ways that, yeah, the synthesis of our sound works in the context of how we write. And we're just curious about trying new things. And more importantly than that, it's trying to directly express how we feel in the most accurate representation of the music, right? Like, so it's like, if I feel this way, then I'm gonna write everything to be like how I feel, and every detail of that. And if someone else wrote something that made me feel that exact thing, maybe I'll pull from that and then put it in. So there's probably like a combination of those elements, I would say.
In the chats, Lisa Callahan, who has watched actually, excuse me, it's her husband Joe, but Joe and Lisa have watched every single thing, that every one of these that we've done. They want to know, you know, what influenced you musically that made you want to push your writing. Was it, so you're not, like you're saying, it's not necessarily a specific artist, but it sounds like it's like that feeling that,
I mean,
you know,
for me, I will speak for myself. It's just like probably obsession with what music is and can be. So it's not like I'm doing it because I heard Steven Wilson or I heard Tosin Abasi play guitar or something. It's I don't know. It's it's just like, I guess for me, it's like just a need to, it's the way I express myself, and I have to, I don't know. I feel like because our emotions are so special to each of us, that I have to dig down and really, I have to write music according to the genuine and real feelings that I have. And if it doesn't meet that standard, then I can't put it out. I can't. So that's why I think I kind of just like, what drives me is kind of the desire to make music that is authentically displaying how I feel to like its fullest extent.
So it's really you're very more internal sort of expression, as opposed to sort of an external, I want it to sound like this. It's more like whatever I'm feeling right now, I have to figure out a way to express it. And that's how you guys, at least the genesis of what you write, is that sort of a fair summation?
Yeah, I think kind of. And I think like going forward at some points, maybe we'll dip into like being more conceptual or writing about other stuff. But I think like a lot of the times it's like an inward thing, as to like and then also I think there's some elements of improvisation, just like, you know, part of the Earthside sound is also being together and like jamming and figuring out what comes out of the moment and then building around that and then creating a statement around that. So there's definitely there's definitely, you know, quite a bit of that in our sound. So it is playing off of each other and yeah, starting off in that improvisatory writing stage. So it's not just the premeditated, but it's that as well. So I would say those are like the two key things, like kind of just like the love of music and like creating something. Yeah, that's what I guess would drive me and pushes me. Well, what pushes me is the emotional expression. Yeah. But then like in terms of like what makes us want to write is either the being collaborative with our best friends and riffing off of that, or yeah, just a personal expression.
That combination is, I think, probably what makes you guys sound the way you do. And I got to say that, like, it seems to me that, you know, we're talking the last record and stuff leading up to it, but it seems to me that you guys did a very good job of sort of balancing out those feelings in every song that you guys would write, like, you know, the different moods and things. Sometimes bands, maybe within our quote unquote genre that we're sort of working in, right, they tend to sometimes, like you said, noodly, and, you know, we're guilty of it as well, but like it's not, it's too like, well, we're just going to do this because, or because it's cool, or because, and it's like, to me, you guys never sounded like that. It seemed always like this was sort of, this is here's this layer, and then there's this layer, and then the section will flow into this next one, and it's a way that maybe it was organic when you guys were jamming it, but it seems very, not only does it progress in a way that feels right and is logical, but it has these sort of multiple listen sort of things, where on maybe the third listen you're like, oh, you know what, I never noticed how they, if you want to get really muso about it, you could be like, I never noticed how they modulated in this spot here. That's cool, because it was so seamless. Or, oh, I really like how they took the rhythm from the beginning and they put it in another instrument. You know, these little arrangement details and things like that seem like you have to have sort of this synthesis that you're talking about between, you know, improvisational. Some of it came out when you're jamming. Some of it is sort of this internal expression. And I always just felt like you guys sort of nailed that in your way, where it's very identifiable to you. And I can't really point at something and go, oh yeah, they're doing this. It's like, not really, you know?
Yeah, I think one thing that's cool is like we basically have like 3 or 4 editors in the band. So, and what I mean by editor is like a book editor. Like you know, you wrote your novel and you send it to the editor and they craft the language and make sure the transitions are good, whatever. But we like basically have like, you know, everyone on a specific role being the editor, so to speak, where we will have 3-hour band practice on literally one transition. And it's like, everyone's like, why do you guys take so long? Well, it's like, well, bro, if you want to hear the most flawless transition of all time, then like, you're going to have to let us spend our 3 hours, you know, thinking of and arguing and then like literally not talking to one another for like 2 days on like just like one, like what would seem to be a dumb like transition, you know? So, you know, where like Jamie's like the kind of more like structural arrangement type, you know, thinking about that and the chords and the harmony, and I'm thinking about the like the texture and like how things flow with that, and the sounds that are used and how it might be produced in the future, and then Ben kind of checking in on the groove and how parts are like flowing in terms of like their rhythmic styles and transitions. And you know, like Ryan will come in, Ryan's like cool because he's like a jack of all trades. He knows how to read score, he knows, you know, he's played music, he studied at conservatory, and so he kind of like can come in on any of these parts that each of us are more specialized, and kind of like even go further into like making comments and stuff. So like, yeah, it just kind of becomes like a bottomless pit of just editing and editing and editing and editing, you know. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say on that.
I've said to John, because we kind of, it's almost like claymation. Like it takes like 3 hours to make like just a little bit of, and it takes so long. But then when you get to that end point, it's like it's worth it.
Yeah. So, as Adam Driver told me, it's a blessing or a curse. You don't.
That's funny. Well, so where are you at now with this new record? Now, maybe we should give a little bit of a history of sort of what happened with your last record.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think
with the last record.
The people want to know.
They're demanding. They want to know where you recorded the last album, what you did with touring, and things like that. And then let's talk about sort of where you're at the process with a new one as well.
So like the evolution kind of from the last album to this one, couple like general things, which is one, the last record was mostly, as far as thematically, the last record was like an inward kind of look into ourselves and our own lives and kind of philosophy based in that way. And it's crazy when I think about it, like that, like that we were trying to dig into this stuff at like what, like we finished writing this stuff and we're like 22, 23, like, and then the production process took like 3 years. So it's like already that already tells you enough of like,
so really, why did the production
process
take?
But yeah, like I think there was very much a focus, like we weren't as like worldly, I guess. So like it was very like inward. And then I think when, time went by and then we got kind of through this record, there was a way which we kind of started like looking maybe outward a little more on like how things are, outside of our lives, what's going on in the world. And then philosophically, like looking at our humanity and what that means and how we interact with each other and what our place is in the world and all of that. So the second album, actually, I think we started it. We wrote like the first, well, right before that, we went on tour with Leprous in 2016 in the fall and in the US. And Leprous definitely like, inspired us, going into writing for our second record, because they had just put out their album, The Congregation, which was like a banger of an album. I mean, like I haven't been lately. It's been hard for me to like get into new bands I've never heard of and stuff like that. But like, dude, that album just was insane. And we all really liked it in one way or the other. And then, so after coming out of that and like being like, all right, we gotta write again. We gotta start getting on the horse. Basically like, it was like the day after the election, I think. And we were just like, what the fuck is going on in the world? Like what's going to happen? And we just started, we started this new writing process where it was just kind of this outward, all right, all these things are happening. Let's look outward. And we just like, I don't know, we felt something like really powerful and dark, and kind of the direction I think that this album has taken was this I would say a little bit darker of an undertone than A Dream in Static. And there was a lot of like emotion going into it. There had been a lot in the band that like we'd had like personal issues we had to resolve, and then things from the past and all this crazy stuff. And then like, I think, yeah, this album is kind of just like the big question mark a little bit of like, what our place here on this earth and what all of that means, and us trying to kind of like figure that out, and then taking like kind of specific instances of that and writing about those things. So like each topic is slightly different, but so I would, if I had to describe it, I would say there are some darker undertones in the music, and it's also probably going to be is a little bit more organic. I mean, an Earthside production is like kind of like it's like a pop production almost, but it's organic. Weirdly, I don't know how to. It's very focused in having a massive production that like every chord sounds perfect. Every decision has to be like done with like precise detail, and then but like the substance is this very raw, caveman, I feel this way, I must make a statement about it. And I guess the two synergize well in the end. But yeah, and I would say we continued to bring other people on board from different productions. So like David Castillo has been a part of the production of the record. And a new guy we brought on board was Greg Thomas from Connecticut. He was in the band Misery Signals for a little bit, and he has his own studio. So we did guitar work with him as well. And those were like, and then we recorded drums at Applehead, as you guys did. Massive wooden room, and with
Bittner, right? Chris
Bittner. Yeah, Biddy, see Biddy. And Chris Bittner, and for those of you who don't know, he's worked a lot with Coheed, and has done stuff. Was it Sleep Token? Not Sleep Token. My bands now. I just don't. What's the Chino project?
I'm blanking on that too.
Why not just say it's Sleep Token?
He's literally yelling at his phone right now.
Team Sleep or something?
Sleep, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I'm gonna just jump out the window now. So he was in on the production. So like, I mean, so many talent. Like, I just like have so much appreciation for the people like who, it's not just like us doing it. It's like it's like all these talented people coming in and doing like a fantastic job. But yeah, so like the album process has still been like we pick and choose different people to work with for certain tasks. Oh yeah, Forrester Savell produced the bass sounds as well. So we always like do this approach of like, all right, who's kind of like best for the job, or like who's going to get us this specific sound. It's not necessarily like we need to work with one producer. And I think part of this, like I was saying earlier, is our kind of not like our, like we don't have the hero worship. So we kind of just, we can, it doesn't matter who it is. Well, it does matter who it is. It very much does. But we just pick and choose kind of,
not from a name person to do the best, right?
Who's the best person to convey the emotion that we want? And I gotta say, it's, and also I like note like with David, because we worked with him on the last record, but he's like really upped his game with production and like just doing insane stuff that like it's like I learned so much from all of these people. I mean, it's crazy. And I don't know, I'm really happy about it. But anyway, yeah, so things that are the same, it's still very much like a collaborative album. There's going to be like this similar format with some guest vocals, different producers, like as I mentioned, and then different songs by different people, and then also songs written together. And then, I can't give like too much away,
Sure.
But there's also, collaborative musicians as well. There's going to be some orchestral, live orchestral stuff. There's going to be specific people or groups that are featured. You know, it's not just let's feature the vocalist. Like we have like, you know, like, you know, instrumentalists. So
Cool.
That's amazing.
So in that way, it's going to be the same. I think the difference is that it's going to be maybe a more raw for Earthside standard album, but meaning, you know, we're over this like drum replace everything, like fake guitar sims, like whatever. I mean, I'm not like, people can choose what their tastes are. Like I'm not here to like bash stuff, but like I personally I've kind of just been over it. Like and so this record, I think it definitely reflects it. It's very much like has a lot of organicness to it.
Cool.
So go ahead.
I was gonna say it's interesting how, you know, like, and I like that kind of old school mentality of, you know, you're bringing a lot of new things and you're really pushing yourself to find that new sound, but you have a very old school mentality, and like you don't, it doesn't sound, I mean, maybe you guys demo at home, but you're going out there, you're finding people in that old way. All right, we're going to this guy for guitars, we're going to this, you know, when a lot of people, I mean, especially now out of necessity, but a lot of people are recording from home. So that's really cool. Like, as keyboardist, are you using different boards, some different hardware versus software, and like?
Yeah, I actually am still like, sounds on this record are coming from like the original motif and like the XS, and like that stuff was like 14 years ago.
Yeah.
The Roland Integra. So I have 3 modules. I have the original motif, the XS, and the Integra. So there's going to be sounds from those keyboard modules, and then there's going to be some you know, software synthesis as well. And then we're also going to have David you know, produce the sounds too, where we're going to have some, you know, reamped keyboard sounds, and like bringing the organic to the digital, like processing them in that way. So there's going to be a lot of different stuff going on with that. So it's cool. Yeah, I think it's cool to use like whatever, like hardware, like it's still cool. Like the presets from those companies are so, like, I find them so easy to write with. I don't know why. Like there's a reason they're so successful and that these companies are where they are. I mean, sometimes I wish like I wish some of the soft synths like sounded like that stuff.
Maybe you haven't got, I mean, there's such a push now in soft synths to sound like, you know, you're saying these keyboards sound good. What, you know, all those early 80s boards are everywhere now. So that's what everything's emulating now. Eventually, maybe we'll see emulations of, you know, some of the late 90s, early 2000s stuff that we're looking at.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, for some reason, I just love, I love stock sounds, because I'm more of a writer for like, I guess I'm less of a tweaker than like, I'd rather scroll through like 3,000 patches and then just find the right one. Because like I like to play certain chords while I'm doing it. Like tweaking is so hard, and like I give a lot of props to like EDM producers and electronic music producers, where they're like making their sounds like on Massive or something, and like changing the LFOs and the freaking like oscillators and like just tweaking everything. And that takes so much time in and of itself. Like I'm just like, I'd rather find like an emotional thing that conveys my thing. I'd rather scroll through like 3,000. That's me. I'm less there. I'm like chord, next patch, chord, next patch, chord, next patch, chord, next, and then just like 30 minutes goes by, and so I'm like very selective in that. And like maybe I'll only use like 10 presets from a $2,000 unit, but it's priceless. And you know,
it doesn't matter.
The music it creates.
Okay, so this may be impossible to answer, and when people ask us this, it's really hard, and we have to estimate. But just curious. So, if you had to put a percentage done of your next album,
Okay.
total percentage from soup to nuts,
Yeah.
100% would be we're sending it out to be packaged. Like
Right.
where are you? Where are you guys right now? And if you may not
Well,
have,
I would say let's say that mastering is the last step.
Okay,
Like you're done with mastering, then it's 100%. So I would say 80%,
oh, cool.
something like
Good.
that. I mean, relative to the amount of work, I mean, there it might take some time to get the other stuff, or there will be some difficulties, but like a lot of stuff is recorded. And
Great.
even one song might be going into mixing, within the next couple months.
Cool.
And just kind of, we're going to see where we're at, what things sound like, and even like get a master. So it's like, maybe you'll hear something, who knows? Like, so we're gonna kind of put together the remaining sounds, and then, or the remaining pieces of the recording, while some other things are farther ahead. So we're gonna send those in and start maybe starting a mix on that or whatever.
Cool.
So there's varying degrees of where different songs are at.
Yeah.
But it's if we get some things pulled through, I mean, it's definitely on its way. We just have to coordinate, because it's hard to be working with all different kinds of people, to coordinate all of that to then push it over the finish line. So yeah, I mean, mixing and mastering has to be done, and then there's some recording to be done. But yeah, a lot has been recorded.
Yeah, I mean that's a good percentage, man. We haven't been writing for quite as long as you guys, but it takes a long, as far as this process goes, but it takes a long time, we find that we're similar, where there's various stages of what's been worked on, where we're sort of happy with, what's like, this feels sort of complete, close to ready to really track it and mix it, or so we're not quite up to the percentage that you guys are, but it's nice to know that the not the end is in sight, but that you can move on to the next phase soon, which is cool. It always makes me feel good when I'm like, wow, we got to that point. This is exactly what we've been looking for, and now we can start what the next thing will bring. And obviously, in these times, which are stranger than most and more difficult for us, we were talking about this on the last podcast we did, but we've started doing Zoom writing. Which is okay. I open up a Logic section and we have all this stuff in here, and then everybody can actually hear it pretty well if you do it right. And it's like, okay, it's not bad, and it's functional for now, but it's not getting in a room.
I did one of my first ones of those with Ben, where he has his song, and he has keyboards that he wrote, like some parts with like just plug and play Logic, synths. And like I was kind of tweaking things and like doing it my way, and with him on the other end being like, oh, that was cool, or like I need more of this or whatever. And for that, it was pretty successful. I don't know ultimately if we could like do an Earthside record on Zoom, like if that's even possible, but I think there are things we can do, and we're going to try to utilize, this new technology and the way to do things to for those specific things, to get those done for sure. But I think I don't know. I think people are going to like what we've got here. I think we've definitely tried, even if you're not like 100% sold on the music, you're going to unequivocally say that Earthside tried to make a statement, and they came out swinging as hard as they could. Nice. So that's that's the most you can do is just put everything you have into something and try your best, and that's
Yeah, man. I mean, that's
what
all
you can do with music, you know.
and that's it. And and when we were younger, we were hoping everybody would like what we did and see the value and what we did, and of course that doesn't happen. Especially if you are not doing quote unquote popular music. Whatever the flavor of the month is, or the last month or whatever. That's the risk you run. But I think that, especially for our last record, it was like, okay, listen, we really want to do a concept album, and we want it to be an hour straight through, and we want to do something because we're swinging for the fences, and people might say, oh, it's pretentious, or, why would you do that in today's world, whatever. And we were like, well, okay, if that's what they say, that's what they say, and that's fine, because we know that we put our all into it and everything. And at least for us, ironically, the negative reviews were so much less than the positive reviews. We really thought it was going to be, 50-50 or worse. So not that happens every time, but, you guys may find yourself in a similar position. I
also wanted to mention it's going to be another like 9 songs, but like over 70 minutes of music or something. It's
nice.
It's a real like, yeah, it's going to be another banger where like the average track length is like, 9 minutes or something. But I think, one piece of feedback that gives me a lot of hope for the reception of our kind of music is that a lot of people, even if they're not fans of prog, they'll listen to an Earthside song, even the demos that we have for the new stuff, and they'll be like, that was 9 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, like it's a story, like when we were talking about earlier about like crafting the story and the transitions and all of this stuff. Like I've heard this from multiple people of like, oh, it was just, I didn't even realize I'd been listening to a 10-minute song. So, to me proves like you don't need a 3-minute song. Just write good songs. Like,
yeah, that's whatever it is.
Like people will listen. I don't think it's that complicated. I think there's kind of economic structure set up to promote writing slower or shorter songs, but that doesn't necessarily mean people don't want longer songs. I think it's a different matter. It's a different subject.
One thing that always bothers me, I always find that like, I feel like there's a feeling that like everything has to be a certain way, kind of like, I mean, not only you're looking at it from the economic way, but it's like, even in rock music growing up, it's like, well, if it's not like this, then it's not rock and roll, like whatever that means. And like, what that is different for every person. And like you said, like, yes, is it going to maybe be as popular as a 3-minute song? No, I mean, that can cut to most people quicker, and not everybody has the attention span. But to assume that other people don't want to look deeper. I mean, people look deeper in other mediums, whether it's TV shows or movies or art or books. Why does music have to just be tossed aside? It doesn't have to be that. And if you give people a chance to invest, that they very well may.
I have a lot of thought. I mean, there's like two big things that come to mind, which is like, one, the problem that like all music is sold at the same price. It's really weird to me. And then like the other thing is like music can be popular and transcendental without like fitting the pop form, like sure, but it has to be legitimized. So like movie soundtracks, I bet if they weren't part of a movie wouldn't get the same clout as when you have a huge marketing budget behind something, right? Like I like to make an analogy with like, let's say the game League of Legends, right? So like if League of Legends was just a game and like you were just like, all right, you probably, when you think of League of Legends, like probably some like pimply dude playing like, on his computer all day asking mom for like pizza rolls or something. But really, what they did was brilliant with the game is that they created a league, no pun intended, with casters, with people actually casting the games, with a production budget, with all of this money pumped into great camera work, great casting, like post-game analysis, pre-game analysis, like hyping up players, getting professional photos of them. Like when you legitimize something like that, it becomes iconic and is demanded in the cultural sphere. And with a movie, when you have an awesome soundtrack, like, I mean, I love Hans Zimmer, like, you know, the closest person I'd get to fanboying probably. But like, so many of his soundtracks are freaking inspirational. I mean, Inception, Interstellar, The Gladiator. I like legitimately just cry immediately when I start listening to these things. Um, but the thing is, they're part of a bigger movement. They're part of a lot of money being pumped into the promotion and the perception of its epicness, right? And so these scores become these legendary things. And I would argue that like there are some of those scores are more relevant and have sold more than some of the albums that had radio singles that we've heard. Mm-hmm. So it's more of a matter of like, imagine if they put that budget from a movie into like a prog band or something, like in terms of like their relevance, and shoving it in people's faces and buying ads and playing it in movie theaters and playing it in grocery stores or whatever. And it's like, it's not, I don't ever think it's really the thing itself. It's how it's put together. So like League of Legends is now like esports or whatever, like is considered this very legitimate, very culturally relevant, booming industry. And it's because they put the resources behind it to make it what it is. And it's not just looked at as like a video game. They just legitimized it. So that's my whole big brain, you know.
Well, tell me more about the differently priced music. You mentioned that before. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think what's really unique about music is the fact that all music is priced the same, and probably because it's a duplicated product, right? So like an artist who paints a canvas, they can decide how much they want to charge for it based on their name recognition, the amount of work that went into it, the materials that went into it. Did they have to order special watercolors from a certain manufacturer? Did they make it themselves? Like, right, there's so many aspects to like a painter can decide, you know, how they're selling that, right? And it's non-replicative either. So they just have that singular piece, and they can either say this is $25 or $3 million. You know, I think, you know, with movies, you kind of have an interesting thing where like going to see a movie is like kind of like going to see a live concert a little bit, where it's like, even though it's replicative, right? It's like the movie can be distributed, you know, the same every time over and over again. Like it's still like $15 a ticket to go see it, you know, that kind of entry fee for the theater, and then they kind of release it after the fact. But that would be another arena, I guess, which is interesting, talking about differentiating the like amount per thing. But also like just like any other product on the market, right? The price is usually determined by like all these different factors, right? But like with music, you have kind of like it's just set, like everyone's set, and the artist doesn't decide how much value it's not that like, yeah, it's not one music is better than another, but the artist doesn't get to decide that. So it'd be interesting to see a world in which maybe the artist has more like say in the, if we're working under the US economy that we live under, you know, what would happen if people set the price? You know, would someone, you know, buy a Justin Bieber single for $100, or would they only want to buy it for $1? Like, I don't know. I have no idea, but you know, it would be interesting to see what the landscape would look like if artists got to choose kind of what they want to price their music at.
Well, that's
and
sort
see
of
how the people react to that. Like, would I still buy, you know, an Earthside song for $50, or would I still buy a Britney Spears song for $50 or $1 or 50 cents? Like, I actually don't know, but it's something I think about, because it's interesting that we it's like we don't we get no say in the matter, but
Right.
like a painter can make their painting and sell it at whatever price they feel like. So it's something to definitely that I'm curious about to and think about for the future. But yeah, I don't know.
I can think of two things that sort of what you're talking about. There's been some experimentation, right? The Wu-Tang Clan, I think it was, made a whole disc, and they made it literally out of gold, I think, that was the rumor, and they sold it to one person, whoever the highest bidder. They're obviously a really, really popular group, so they can do that. I think they sold it for $1 million or more.
Skrelly, right? To Farmer Bro?
Yeah, the Farmer Bro. That's right.
Oh, what a waste.
Which is, well, you had the money, that's for sure. But, okay, so there's that. And then, of course, the famous In Rainbows Radiohead, where they said, and this was right at the beginning sort of the digital age, and they said, whatever you want to pay. And they ended up doing incredibly well. Now, of course, that's Radiohead, who's probably one of the most popular bands still out of the last 20 years or plus. You know what I mean? So sometimes there's that sort of, like you said, name recognition and things. It's like, they can sort of experiment. They didn't care about the monetary as much. Of course, they wanted to make money on it. They spent years of their life on it, but they also were like, let's see what happens. We're going to do this no matter what. We don't have to do it any other way. And those are the two I would say that would probably at least lend a little bit of historical significance to what you're talking about.
Yeah. I think I'd want to kind of like think about it more and like maybe develop more thoughts on it. So, but it's like, that's just like kind of like an initial pondering that I've had. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, this is kind of interesting how this works. And, what might we do to, is it just like a supplemental thing where it's like, okay, you buy it for $1, but like, here's the other link to, I guess it's like Bandcamp, name your price a little bit where it's like, all right, you could buy this for $1, but if you think it's worth 10, then like go ahead. But initially speaking, we don't really get to determine.
You're thinking
like
bigger.
Spotify, we don't get to tell Spotify like, we demand like $1 a stream or something. It's like, no, they just pay you what you get paid.
0.001 cents a stream,
Hey.
No, it's 0.0034.
Oh, 34. Oh, sorry. I was a little higher than I was thinking.
Hey,
but okay. Well, there's a couple things that we've been doing on some of these streams that I will throw past you a little bit as we're sort of getting near the end of this wonderful session. One of the things that we talked about was sort of advice for the musician, the modern musician, right? There's a lot of one of the other streams we did, someone came on and said, okay, what about someone who's graduating from college now, who wants to make music their career or coming out of high school, something like that. And so we can put this in the context of what's happening literally right now, or it can be sort of like the broader trends. What would you say if you have a couple pieces of advice for musicians at that sort of budding time, right? That's really kind of when you guys put out your first album. It was right around that time, a little after that age anyway, right? So do you have any ideas or pieces of advice, tidbits you've learned maybe over the last 6-7 years?
Yeah, I think yes and no. I think one of the main things is like, one of the things I like was thinking about touching upon is like kind of what the difference of like creating to just create versus being like a content creator. And I don't want to say like content creators aren't artistic. I was going to say content creation versus being an artist. So I don't want to say that being a content creator isn't being an artist. I think what I'm more talking about is like there's almost this death of being the long game artist where you create a timeless piece of work that you've just invested in for a long time, right? And then you finally put it out. You know what I mean? Instead of, like, do you even remember the random YouTube upload of your favorite, creator from last year on, April 20th, 420? I think that was subliminal, but like, but you know what I'm saying? Like, do you even remember what that was? but like I can remember, you know, Porcupine Trees in Absentia or Fear of a Blank Planet. Like that's going to stick with me my entire life forever, like, and inspire and continue to inspire me. So like the big thing is like what I feel for right now is like this push to make everyone a content creator. You just got to keep up with the times. And like, it's like, well, okay, do you want literally like long form art to just die? Like, do you want it to just be blown off the face of the planet? I don't know. Like, I guess I think you know, first of all, like really like look internally and like figure out like what it is you really want. And I think instead of going into like what you should or shouldn't do, whatever, I think more importantly for a young person is like you have to find peace with yourself. You have to find you have to be able to I think develop relationships with other people with an open heart and an open mind, and not get dragged down by all these little things that might happen, and disagreeing with a band member or having something, you know, being in a tough situation or all these, you know, not being number one on Instagram or whatever. Like stats. I think finding, if I could go back, like I've been my whole life so angry with myself, so much hatred, so much, you know, I want to say depression, but yeah, I mean, like my whole life has been just kind of bashing myself and like, you'll never do it. You're worthless, and just kind of spiraling into this downward spiral. And then, you know, instead of like being like, you know, loving the fact that I have an opportunity to make music. And I think if you can be in a place and get your mental into a place, and reflect upon that and start that early, and not be bogged down by like, oh, I'm not trending yet. Like that'll almost make you stop making music. It'll make you quit. And so if you can remove yourself from that, be at peace with yourself, and just be able to go out there and write, and be yourself, like you have to be able to do that now, and not get bogged down by all the stats and all the YouTube numbers and all the Instagram numbers. And like, to me, that's like, forget the music. Like that's essential. That's number one. That'll make you survive. And I am part of like, you know, just passing down stuff. It's like, I want people to, you know, I want things to change obviously in our society, so artists have more opportunities to like dig into their craft. Like I want there to be a Earthside in the future that just dethrones us. That's just like makes our music look like toddler kids' music, you know? Like I want that. I think evolution is great, and I really hope that there's a chance for that. And yeah, but especially in today's age, to really get that mental right, and you know, because the other stuff that'll drag you down. It'll prevent you from being your best musician or artist.
Yeah, dude, that's a really great point. You know, because a lot of our toughest critic can be yourself, and part of it, I think, in a way, is because as a developing musician wanting to get better, you have to be critical of the things you're doing in order to get better. But there's a line where it goes from it's self-improvement, right? And like, you're like, okay, no, this is good. I'm not playing this scale well. I need to be, and reality, looking at reality. Okay, no, I can't do whatever it is, the task that I'm doing, and I'm working on it. So you have to have that. And of course, if you have tough teachers, they also are there to do that for you. But then there's that line, right, where it goes past, oh, I'm not good at this thing, to I'm not good. Right. And then that's a tough one, man. I think you know, thank you for being open about that, because I think that a lot of us can whitewash those kind of things, and because it doesn't seem cool, maybe. But it's so many musicians have those thoughts, and actually, even in the chat here, we have some, Christopher Brown said, yeah, I feel Frank. I suffered from depression too, right? It took me until my 45th birthday to finally become comfortable. You know, thank you, Chris. That's really.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
And Joseph Callahan, top fan, he said, you know, we all have those feelings. How you respond to it is what matters. Every day I climb that hill and I will own that hill. Yeah, man. I mean, that's really important stuff, because you have to be a good human, be kind to yourself before sometimes to let the inner musician out in a way, you know, to not be afraid to try things like you've been talking about today.
I mean, maybe like, you know, I don't want to like give credence to this, but like, I know that like some of the stuff I didn't want to happen in my life, you know, did help me in expressing myself.
Right.
But at the same time, it's also maybe prevented a lot of music that I could have shared with the world, and I didn't write because I just wasn't going to do it. And I want to say, just finish with one last point, because this is relevant to kind of what we're speaking of. But one of Jamie and our really good friends back in college became really famous on YouTube, and very quickly. And part of, you know, for me, after that happened, I spent years and years just reflecting on, do I go on the train? Do I hop on this train with our friend and get onto YouTube and go in that direction? Or do we stick with what we're doing? Do we grind it out, you know, writing this type of music that we do?
Right.
And I don't know how many years that sat with me, just not knowing, just because of the, you know, when I talk about with like being a young person, basically being like 19 or something, and like, or 20, 21, I don't know, seeing that happen, like I know it's so much easier because you kind of have to live it to understand it. But, you know, for like, you have to follow your, like really look down, figure out what it is you truly love about music or your art,
mm-hmm.
and go with it, because it's, even though it might be tough, it might be the hard cultural decision, like you'll still be you would be battling yourself if you went the other way. So it's not easy to just jump on the bandwagon and then everything's great because now you have more material success.
Sure.
I think it's you just believe in yourself that what you like is okay. That's okay. And figure out a way to develop it and get it out there, and, you know, in the way that is you, instead of spending all of your energy on, everyone else is doing it this way or that way. And yeah, I think, you know, hopefully everyone doesn't have to like experience, you know, being in stagnation for years and years of their life, because, you know, something that like massive happens and then you're like, oh my God, I like, it's existential. Like, what do I do? Do I go with the success or do I grind it out? Like,
right.
I think just be able to reflect on those things and trust yourself. Cause like, I think either way it's going to be hard. Cause like either you're going to be doing something you're kind of like half in on, or you're going to be doing, and I've still done projects with my friend and I will continue to do so. Cause I enjoy that. And I enjoy, you know, you can see me with 20 million views with Lindsey Sterling on YouTube if you really want to look up some old stuff. But like, you know, so I've been in the YouTube world a little bit, but yeah, I think anyway, if any of that made any sense, sometimes I ramble and I don't actually.
No, dude, I think that's a great place to sort of put a capper on what we've been talking about today, and really do appreciate you, you know, being so forthright about these things, you know, that are sort of, some of it's extra musical, right? But it really, all your life and all the stuff that happens does affect, if you're a creative person, period, it affects the way you deal with your creativity. It affects the way that you, sometimes for the good, sometimes for the worse, sometimes only for the good much later later on. All these things that you're talking about, I think, is really, really universal for creative people in general. So thank you so much for being so open about that. As we're wrapping up here, can you direct people to where they should be checking you guys out, when maybe there's some potential of some things that people can listen to? You don't have to be super specific, but
well, you know how to find us: Earthside on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook. We're not quite TikTokers. I mean, I've got Frank Swallow on TikTok if you really want that Kylo Ren content, but I mean,
very well, by the way.
Wouldn't that be hilarious if Earthside became like a TikTok? I've almost thought about, doing something like an anti-TikTok not being anti-TikTok, but I mean like having a serious TikTok channel where it's like about serious things and like serious music, in spite of the platform being completely not that. So I don't know. There could be interesting things that could be done, but maybe Earthside TikTok in the future. Who knows?
Prog Talk? TikTok?
But yeah, we're pretty easy to find.
That's
and
awesome.
if you want to chat me up for any other questions or anything, I'm Frank Earthside on Facebook and Prog Rock Sad Boy on Instagram. I am the one and only Prog Rock Sad Boy.
And that's awesome. Well, everybody should also know that they can listen to your last album, A Dream in Static, with Earthside on all the major streaming platforms. And I think you guys also have a Bandcamp where if you like purchasing,
yes,
where you can get it, right?
And our online store at earthsideband.com. Yeah.
Earthsideband.com. And when we put this up in other places, we'll make sure we get those links for you in there. Right. So thank you so much, Frank, for joining us. This has been great. This just hour and plus has just blown by. So
I know, right?
Appreciate it. Mark, thanks for being here as well.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, Mark spawned some of his questions spawned some deep territory we went into.
Seriously deep.
Oh, okay, good.
And one of the things that we're going to be doing is we decided to continue this through next month at least and into the future on Monday nights from here on out. And next Monday, we have our old bass player and great friend, Tim Rajkowski, coming on. And we're going to talk all things. If you like history and like inside band stuff, you're going to love the stuff that we talk about. And we have some very, very, very special guests as the month goes on that we're going to be announcing. Frank, thank you so much, man. And we're going to play out with some.
Guys, I really enjoyed it, and wishing all of you guys the best in these times. And love y'all. See ya.
Same to you, man.
See you soon, man. Stay healthy. All right, play you out with some Earthside, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.